This is the Unique Scotland podcast with exclusive scottishvisits.co.uk.
Hello, this is John Harbour of Exclusive Scottish Visits Luxury Tours, and welcome to my podcast, Unique Scotland, the go-to podcast on all things Scottish. I'm recording this from Aberlady, a small village near Edinburgh, and it's a cold but bright and sunny late April morning. Minnie, our spaniel, has had her walk and is very proud with herself, having put up 2 ducks who were minding their own business in a field next to Aberlady Bay when Minnie went dashing past. Pam, Minnie and I are just back from the Outer Hebrides with my good friends Irina, Philip and their 2 gorgeous boys, Nicholas and Lucas, who are also my godsons. That was quite a trip, and I'll be recounting the journey in a future podcast and telling you of our adventures on white sandy beaches, tempestuous seas crashing onto the Outer Hebrides Atlantic coasts, incredible Neolithic monuments, and also the pleasure of meeting Donald John Mackay, the famous weaver of Harris, who completed a huge tartan weaving order from Nike, which they used in their running shoes, or as we call them, trainers. I think in American parlance it's sneakers. Anyway, they were super. And talking about weaving, in today's podcast you're in for a treat as we continue our thread from our last podcast which unravelled the world of tartan. In today's episode you'll be hearing from the marvellous Clare Campbell, a woman who's not only left her mark on the Highlands and Scotland, but has splashed it all over the global design scene with her incredible flair for weaving. Her Prickly Thistle brand isn't just a tongue twister, it's a whirlwind of creativity shaking up the design world like it's not been shaken for quite some time. Clare's story touches at the very heart of every one of us who has ever come to a point in our lives where the status quo was not an option. She began life as an accountant, yes, really, juggling numbers by day, teenagers by night, with a supportive, albeit slightly sceptical husband cheering from the sidelines. But life had some tough lessons to teach. After losing her dad and having already faced the heartbreak of her brother's passing at just 19 years of age, Clare hit pause. She started wondering if there was more to life than spreadsheets and school runs, and for her there was. Enter Tartan, in the most dramatic, your destiny is calling kind of way. According to Clare, tartan didn't just waylay her, it practically ambushed her. And weaving tartan quickly became not just a hobby but a full-blown love affair. And it's not just about pretty plaids either. Clare's tartan's woven into the very fabric of Scotland's soul. Clare's passionate about the fact that real tartan is made from wool, a material so sadly outnumbered these days that only 1% of global textiles still come from sheep, while the rest are synthetic pretenders. Determined to make a difference, Clare set about creating the Prickly Thistle brand, intent on doing things the sustainable, traditional way, using natural wool and old-school techniques to craft something timeless. And let's face it, nothing says I care about the environment quite like ditching polyester for a chunk of honest Highland wool. But Clare's not just a master weaver, she's a revivalist. She's set up the only tartan weaving mill in the Highlands, yes, the actual home of tartan, working initially in a garden shed, and then a small family-run factory that now hums with the rhythm of rare vintage weaving looms. It's like a little bit of magic, a lot of hard work and a sprinkle of Scottish gutsiness and pride. And to see some photographs of some of Clare's work, please visit my website at exclusivescottishvisits.co.uk, and you can also link to my other social media channels. So, rather than me rabbiting on, let's hand over to Clare herself. Trust me, you're in for a story as colourful as any tartan, with a twist in every thread. So, wherever you are in the world, I would now like you to relax and listen in to an interview with Clare Campbell of Prickly Thistle. Well, I'm delighted to welcome Clare Campbell, the owner of the wonderful company in the Highlands called Prickly Thistle. Clare, welcome.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here, and thank you very much. I'm excited to be asked all these questions I know nothing about.
Ah, you're far too modest, Claire. I have to say it was lovely to meet you recently in Inverness when I was on a VIP familiarisation tour. I recall you making quite an entrance and gave a really inspirational talk on tartan. And your story of building a business inspired me to invite you on here, Unique Scotland podcast, to share that story with my listeners. Can you explain how you moved from being an accountant to a weaver and now working with some of the top fashion brands such as Fendi, as well as collaborating with the likes of Sam Heughan from Outlander? How on earth did you get to where you are now, Claire?
That's a really good question, John. But yeah, I mean, it is a very, very long story, I have to say. But I think, the essence of it, I just reached a point in my personal life where I was doing, obviously, professional practice and working as an accountant in industry. And yeah, sort of mid-30s. And yeah, I had a personal event in my life when I was really, really very young that kind of just reminds you how short life can be. So that in the background was the personal heart element, and I knew I had to do something different about identity.
Yeah.
And tartan is obviously one of the world's most iconic textiles that just screams identity. And then, yes, I wanted to do something around that. Yeah, and being an accountant, I really enjoyed doing what I did for many, many years and worked with incredible people and learned so much about what to do and what not to do, maybe. Yeah, and then when you kind of take this identity and this kind of drive for creating jobs and working in cultures and spaces with people that maybe are less corporate than what I was experiencing. I knew there was but just something wasn't quite right. So the combination of the two, and so you mentioned we're the only weaving mill in the mainland Highland region, which is incredible given that, we're I think, pretty much 51% of Scotland's landmass, and that, that little saying of Highland dress, there's a fairly large connection and in many ways ancestral home of the story of tartan that resonates right back into the north where I live.
Yes.
So it was quite, for me as an accountant, I thought this is crazy. Why have we got this huge icon? I get married to a Campbell and it's the Campbell tartans, and not really thinking about where's it all coming from and where's it all made. And so head and heart came in, and from then on in, we've probably got about 10 podcasts, John, to cover. But I just knew I was getting to that stage. My husband always thinks, oh, he built me a shed. It's like, oh, she's going to take a year out. We'll put her in this shed in the garden. And that will, she'll get over it and then she'll be back to normal Claire. And now I've moved on from the shed. But it was just that moment. And I knew, my kids were small, but not babies. And it was just, it seemed like a really good time for me to do it. And I just didn't want to have too many regrets in my life. So here I am, nearly 8 years later.
It's fantastic. Where do you come from originally, Claire?
Oh, I am born and bred. So born in Inverness, grew up here in Rossshire, just about 20 miles northeast of Inverness. So grew up here, studied in Aberdeen, my accounting and finance element, but always came home because I met my husband when I was very young. We've been together a long time. So I came home and this is my no place like home.
Fantastic. Childhood sweetheart, I believe.
Yes, very, very young. I think we're 32 years together this year.
Oh, wonderful. That's lovely to hear. I mean, it seems strange that you just became interested in weaving. Where did that come from, do you think?
Well, that came from, in the beginning, I was more fascinated about the concept of design and designing tartan and the components of actually what could go into a tartan design, the meaning through colours and numbers and there's a lot of numbers. So the accountant me is quite fascinated around all the technical, auditor hat on. I want to know the process. And so the real moment of, crikey, I'm going to have to build a mill and learn to weave was recognising how small the industry was in Scotland and how, the legacies of various economic cycles have made it very, very challenging for the industry. It used to be booming. I think 6 out of 10 people in Scotland were once employed in the textiles industry. It was massive everywhere. So for a lot of these mills that have, had to fight really hard to stay alive, they were very much looking at maybe slightly larger projects. I was coming with just these little odds and sods of designing for clients. I was in my shed, and I thought, gosh, if I want to create jobs, then I'm going to have to get hands-on. And so, yes, I got to know so many mill owners and people who worked for various mill organizations, and they were wonderful. I mean, they shared so much knowledge with me, and I said, look, I'm going to have this Highlander's honour, this self-scripted Highlander's honour, where I'm going to start a mill, but I'm not going to make any of the fabric that you do. So we don't do any of the clans, as many people are quite aware of this kind of fairly modern chapter, shall we say, in tartan history. So I said, it's my Highlander's honour. I'm not here to come in and say, we're the Highland mill. Let's get your clan tartan here. I respect the space. I respect them as individuals. So it meant that we were always going to work on something new. But by creating, by giving yourself less choice, you have to be more creative. That have been proven. But set up the mill and just promised that I wouldn't actually encroach on them. I respect what they do. And if anything, I give referrals probably every single week to other mills.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, funny enough, this podcast follows on from my recently published podcast on tartan, where I tell the story of the earliest surviving piece of tartan cloth. It's called the Falkirk tartan, almost 2,000 years old. And what they found was a hoard of Roman coins. And it wasn't the coins that was interesting, it was the stopper. It was enclosed with a piece of cloth. And when they took the cloth out, they found it was woven fabric in crisscross lines, like a tartan. And when I look at what I've done in the podcast, I bring it all the way up to the 20th century, where tartan really entered the fashion and politics. And as you know, the tartan it was really invented in the 19th century. In reality, the clan association, clan associations. But people like that fashion icon Alexander McQueen, with his extraordinary tartan designs. I mean, I would suggest he was a bit of a prickly thistle himself. So when we come to prickly thistle, the name of your business, what was it that gave you the idea for that brand name?
I love the juxtaposition, the paradox, everything that it represents. So prickly thistle, obviously, when you say that, I sometimes feel something. There is a very expressive phrase. Clearly, the thistle is the national flower of Scotland. And what I love about the story, and I'm sure we're Scottish, we have about 10 stories for everything. But that whole kind of idea of the Vikings landing, barefoot on the shore, and actually
Battle of Largs.
So this was like, ow, ow, ow. So the thistle saved the lives of the Scots. So it's so that they wanted to kind of honour this thistle. So I love this whole kind of symbol of protection that it represents. And obviously that kind of really drifts into some of the elements that we do today in terms of caring for the planet and sustainability and natural fibres and things. But also, this idea of a prickly situation. Do we create prickly situations, or are we actually here to deal with the prickly situations? There's that whole kind of reference. But so the word prickly and the word thistle, obviously the symbolism there, as a natural fibre, a plant, cellulosic fibre. So, you can weave, there is potentially a way of weaving with the stalks that come from the very much the wild native species that's similar to bamboo. So so there was a lot of different, like a tartan. It's not one thread. There's lots of crisscross in everything.
Understand. For my listeners in America, who I'm sure most around the world will realise that the word prickly is sort of Scottish, but it means sometimes hard to get a hold of. You'll get stung if you grasp it, and sometimes in terms of character, it means difficult to deal with. Claire, can I ask you, are you a prickly sort of person?
Oh, well, if I have to be. I think no. I think probably what I would like to probably fall back on is just the whole traits of integrity and courage. The combination there. Some people might say it's prickly, but I think I've become much more confident in my voice. And I think, in the context of 21st century and the 200 years from now, I think we live in a world where using your voice a little bit more to ask why is really important, especially in the last 50 years, or maybe in the story of tartan, in the last 250. So asking why, and some people might think it's being a bit prickly, but actually, I don't think so. I think what it does, it allows us to kind of get become more informed about everything in life. I think it reminds us that that beautiful thing of compromising, where people actually can disagree but still like each other, you know, this whole kind of thing. So instead of it being a negative thing, I think we need to, you know, we need to keep these things going to remind us of the virtues of what makes a good global humanity.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, the question, really, are you sure about that, is no bad thing at times. No, absolutely. I have to say, what I find most extraordinary when you told the story originally about your product, which is absolutely amazing, and how you made it on 19th century looms. I mean, you could have bought modern weaving looms and perhaps started the business in a much easier fashion. Why on earth use 19th century looms?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, you know, for me, and obviously background as an accountant, and people think, oh, I was trained to, you know, help businesses drive efficiency, and industry 4.0 is coming down the line. We now have AI, you know, why would you have people when you can have robots do
Yeah, yeah.
the job? But I think we have to respect, oh God, there's lots and lots of reasons for it, but I think, you know, it's about creating jobs. I think that's really important, you know, and that's a whole other debate about where we're heading in terms of some of the innovations we're trying to push through. But I was so passionate about creating employment, good quality, fun, rewarding workspace. And there's so much, having spent 13 years of my life with Excel spreadsheets mostly, there's something that makes you feel so alive and so human making something.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, in terms of mental health, you know, it's just incredible. And then when we start making things again, we completely respect and understand their true value. You know, and in the world of consumerism, there's been big drifts in that space because we just don't really know what's involved in making many things these days. So the old looms where that creates more jobs. You know, you see these modern looms, you think, wonderful. You know, old accountant Clare would be thinking of the bottom line. Let's get one of them. It needs far less people. Look at the speed of it. Look, we can mass produce for what is mass waste and you know, hyper consumption. So I believe in these because they need people, but also it's the magic of the cloth. You know, it's like going to a baker's, scratch baked, you know, breads versus mass produced factory bread. You know, to some it might look the same and might even taste very similar, but when you know, you know. And I think tartan it is one of our national icons. I feel like it commands the respect of having the hands of people behind it, rather than it just being fully automated in a massive factory where there is just computers and a few engineers, not weavers, engineers, making sure that everything's back online before the red light starts beeping at you or something. So having this beautiful equipment, but then every now and then I jest and go, well, as the accountant, let's look at that in the balance sheet and think about the economic useful life. We have looms that are one nearly 100 years old. That will outlive every modern loom that is in existence today, without a doubt. It does not require computer aided, you know, technicians. It is literally a work of art. You know, good old fashioned positive energy engineering, gears, you name it. It is perfectly repairable and it will go forever.
And unlikely to be affected by AI, might I suggest?
Oh, completely. I mean, I'm the one that's at the most risk and here with having a computer for emails, but every single person that works here is, computer free.
And how on earth how do you keep them going? Because these are old machines.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, I am for your listeners. I'm learning to weld this weekend. I cannot wait. Most women my age probably get very excited about maybe a new handbag or something. I've bought myself some two welders to do the different types of welding. So, but yeah, we've been very very fortunate. Obviously, this knowledge is vastly disappearing because of that continued industry 4.0 off the back of the industrial revolution as well. And but we were very, very lucky. A gentleman that I managed to find, and all credit to my husband for that, who's been with us now for the 8 years we've been here, and he's been slowly but surely feeding all of his knowledge with us. And we're not quite fully flying or on our own, but we're very, very close to it. So one is obviously the respect for the tuning, as they call it, for the loom. But then because there's so few people weaving with this types of equipment, there is no supply chain for 95% of what, the parts. So you have to get really creative. But then in a sustainability conversation, we're repairing everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's wonderful. So welding will be happening on Sunday.
Well, can I just say congratulations to that? I mean, I have to admit to having been a bit of a weaver myself. When I was 15 years old, having just left school, before I joined the Royal Navy, I got a job in a woolen mill in Galashiels when the mills were still working. And
Yeah.
I actually was being trained as a warper. And that is the person that puts the wool on the big drum and then eventually onto the spindle before it goes through to the weaving shop. And that was a terrific experience. But then again, there were about 200 looms up and down the floor. The noise, the cacophony of noise was amazing.
Oh,
And
it's
and as a
incredible.
and as a 15 to 16 fresh-faced boy with about 200 young women in there, you can imagine they made my life hell.
Oh yes, we've got to have a good sense of humor to be a weaver
You do,
or
you
work in the
do.
textiles industry. No, we
Yeah,
use a hand method of warping, sectional warping by hand as well with a big
yeah.
3L wheel. But we've
Mm.
only got 4 looms, and we're proud to only have 4.
Well, I've seen it on the website. It looks great. The one thing I want to ask you about on the website, I was intrigued by your comment. Quite simply, we make clothes, badass clothes, clothes for women who are like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Can you just explain that? That's lovely.
Well, you were kind of mentioning some of the modern, adoption in the world of fashion, and I kind of go, well, if we look up the definition of fashion, it's actually just an adjective. She fashioned her garden. He
Yeah,
fashioned his toolbox or whatever. So
yeah.
fashion, what is fashion? And so no, we make clothes. We're actually engineers. And it's
Hmm.
like changing the narrative a little bit here to kind of for people to really maybe connect again with all of the work that can go into it. And
Yeah.
obviously push back on this whole hyper consumerism, buy less, love more, who you're buying from. So yeah, so it's gosh, my head's just gone absolutely blank there,
I mean,
John.
how do women react to this? They're like, hell
Oh
yeah. I mean,
yeah. No, so they love it, and I think, I mean, for us, we're so, and it took a little bit of time. I always felt this way in the beginning, but I was a little bit of an imposter syndrome. A chartered accountant
yeah,
coming
yeah,
to,
yeah.
and people say, "Oh, where did you study? And, where did you study textiles or fashion or whatever?" And I'm like, "Well, I got a CA qualification, but I have subsequently departed from that." So yeah, so it was a bit of imposter syndrome for a long, long time. But yeah, so we make clothes and we realize clothes are actually, and it's funny how they've been weaponized in some respects to
Mm.
buy more, to have the
Uh,
latest look, seasonal fashion shows, autumn,
yeah,
winter, spring, summer. Oh, and we just go, wait a minute, this is bonkers.
yeah.
So we're like, no, we just make clothes. That's, clothes that are, you can wear to a wedding or you can wear it on a Wednesday. So
Mm.
everything's been built around and kind of going back to some of the history of the kilt, in
Yeah,
terms of what it was before Culloden
yeah.
per se, is that actually we just wore this cloth, at a kind of district, regional, community level, not so much
Yeah.
bloodline. And it was really just, we made garments, clothes, we made cloths and clothes that were practical. And I'm
Hmm.
like, one day this will be the only trend. It's
Yeah.
practical, this is what we need rather than this is formal, this is,
Yeah.
cocktail, this, I mean, all of these different ways of describing this is casual, this is like no practical. So yeah, so we've kind of been able to connect with a lot of women who probably have felt a bit overwhelmed, a bit tired, a bit fed up
Yeah.
of just how the fashion world does try to hijack your
Uh,
attention, but also play on your insecurities, I'll be totally honest. So we're the anti fashion of all of that. We're just cool, funky clothes. We can tell you who made the cloth, who made the garment.
yeah.
We're hyper local and we create clothes that actually are so much fun. And they are hell yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it.
That's wonderful. I mean, it sounds almost rebellious, if I may say so. And as it turns out, your shop is called Rebel Row. I take it that's manna from
Well,
heaven with the way you're going.
absolutely. I mean, London has Savile Row. The
Yeah.
Highlands has Rebel Row. This is
Love
how
it.
the world works. But yeah, no, we've kind of been a rebel for good. Is something we've talked about actually since for the last 8 years since the very get go.
Mhm.
There was this rebellious spirit that we had to rewild Tartan back in the Highland region. And yeah, so Rebel has been our thing, along with always kind of like having this kind of long term, in 200 years, quite often what I do every day is I have that kind of playback and go, well, what will someone say in 200 years? Not in 2 minutes,
Yeah.
not in the next, press, PR. Is what would somebody say in 200 years about what I'm doing? And that's
Yeah.
the question I'm answering, and with the team and what we do.
Yes. And do you find when ladies come into the shop, obviously, hopefully they bring their husbands, but when they come in, what sort of thing are they looking for today? What is it they're really hankering after?
Yeah, I mean, I think there is that liberation from a system that's been quite
Mm.
dominant and quite evolved. And as you mentioned, sort of the high fashion designers and things like that as well. And some of them were rebels. And I do think if Alexander McQueen and Vivienne Westwood were
Mm.
both here, I think they would have definitely thought, yes, this is the mill.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, they're looking for, we do really simple, everyday,
Mm.
practical clothes that can be
Mhm.
switched up. But I think there's this concept of weighting your values. And I
Mhm.
think, and all, both sexes can relate to that.
Yeah.
And I think when you put on something that is closely connected to your values, in
Mhm.
terms of, whether it's about natural fibers, whether it's about empowering women, whether it's about a rebellious narrative of you're funding an organization that's maybe doing
Mhm.
things that you want to be aligned with, and that kind of thing. So we have a whole range of women coming into store, and husbands and dogs and children. And yeah, I mean, has there been anything else yet? I don't know. Maybe there has. I'm not in the store every day. But we have this great, amazing kind of hub of chat. This is what,
Yeah.
our store is there, but we'll have people come in and they're there an hour and a half later. they're just and they probably not moved from the, just
Yeah.
chatting at the desk. So
Yeah.
so I always say we should only buy what we need and it's relevant to our everyday lives, one that we can wear literally every day if we
Yes.
wanted to. And what we do in Rebel Row, which is similar to Savile Row, but better, of course,
Of course.
is we do made to measure. And that's what's really unique about our mill. Not only unique because we're the only one in this beautiful region at the moment, but we are a mill that actually makes cloth and we make the clothes. Quite often
Mhm.
in this industry, they're very separated. There's,
Yeah.
there is kind of, there's cracks, I think, in knowledge and respect for materials. So because we make the fabric, we know what's involved. Therefore, we
Mhm.
don't waste a single thing when we make a garment. But with having that crossover literally within the same space of all the women that work here, and Martin,
Yeah.
talking about, when you were working at your mill,
Yeah.
we've got our young
You've got
Martin.
your mind. Yes.
um, but what we do, because we do both, it's highly unique. Most cloth
Uh-huh.
producers don't make a whole range of clothing. They will sell to designers and they will put
Yeah.
into other factories and they will do cut, manufacture, trim. And usually the people making clothes don't have anything to do with fabric. So
Yeah.
we're quite unique that way, but it's allowed us to really respect all aspects of the process, but also allowed us to come up with some interesting happy accidents of doing things differently.
Differently. I mean, how on earth did Fendi get a hold of you, for example?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, I mean, normally it's like in the world of commerce or industry, or if you're a manufacturer,
Yeah.
you need to go out in the trade missions and you need to go and sell yourself at the trade shows. Like, this is not what we're about. We're not into
Mhm.
mass scale production of anything. So they just found us. I presume, Google or something like that,
Yeah.
because you may have noticed we've actually not been on social media for 3.5 years.
Yes.
We left that world as a bit of a protest for, as much as there's so many wonderful things, there was things that we felt like, gosh, we
Yeah.
wish they would sort that out. So therefore we put our vote elsewhere and we left. So yes, it must be just through, I mean,
Yeah.
Fendi, I mean, in Italy, it must have been through
Uh,
the internet.
Amazing.
But yeah, I
Amazing.
got the email. I was in Germany at the time and I was doing this trip to meet with some students in Hanover, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
In fact, the professor Martina Blom, she worked with Vivienne Westwood many years ago when she started out. And I was sitting on the train. We just visited a textiles recycling facility, waste facility, and they were talking about what they do with the kind of like post-consumer product. And I was sitting on the train. I was like, I've got an email from Fendi. Do you think this is, And I'm like, they're like, you better reply. And I'm like, oh well, just not really thinking it's Fendi and designing
Yes.
for but it just shows you, I think, a little bit of we haven't compromised on our values and what we do at Prickly Thistle. We, more than anything, we know what we're not.
Yeah.
And I think that's garnering a little bit of respect slowly out there. And it's been a beautiful, organic, natural
Yes.
discovery and word of mouth. It's not a big
No.
hyped PR wheelhouse,
No. No.
whatever.
No. Your
Um,
brand sells itself. It's fantastic, top quality. And that's often the case when selling a genuine product. And I remember meeting a gentleman called Donald John Mackay on the Isle of Harris. And he still weaves in a shed as it happens. Well, his work was extremely well regarded and he won an order from Nike.
yeah. Oh, yes. Sahara's tweed weavers. Yeah, that's a big, big
The
story.
Harris Tweed Weavers, that's right. And I went to visit him when I was across there, and he showed me one of the trainers that
Mhm.
Nike had made with his tartan in the middle. And it's wonderful when you see companies like yourself, Prickly Thistle, suddenly appearing on the world stage, and yet to some extent not necessarily advertising for it either.
No, no. I mean, what gives me more joy, or the most joy, is quite often just seeing a local lady walk down the street wearing one of
Yep.
our covers. That is, you can take your
Yeah.
Oscar red carpet,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
amazing. But to see somebody in your area champion you as a local maker is, yeah, that
Yes.
makes my heart
That
sing.
you know you've made it then when the locals decide to buy from you. It's no
And that's quite hard sometimes with tartan.
it
It's an
is.
interesting one because we've all been here in Scotland. We don't know the true story of tartan.
Well, you're absolutely right. I'm going to try and tell it in
Wonderful.
my podcast. I was just reflecting on the fact that Alan Cumming, of course, and Marianne Margolis, you provided them with, I think, Lost in Scotland
Yeah,
tartan.
we
I
were.
actually met Alan Cumming in New York last year at the Tartan Parade, where I mean, literally, I've never seen so many bagpipes. It's the American Scottish diaspora that come out at the Tartan Parade, and it was an amazing parade down Fifth Avenue, which I was very proud to take part in. But he was sporting an amazing tartan himself. But I mean, how did you get involved with him? And
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, again, we've been very lucky. I've been on a couple of TV shows with Alan. I was also in another
oh
TV show,
well,
My Happy Place, and where I spent the day with him as his pal at Highland Games, and Lala, of course. But yes, again, I think somebody had recommended us, or they were looking for something that wasn't the usual kind of
yeah,
things we covered in these kind of travel shows, whether it's a chef
yes,
or we get a lot of people coming up and doing various things in the Highlands, and thought, oh, this is interesting, this is different. So I didn't know what it was at the time, and then they said, well, it's Alan Cumming and it's Mary Margulies, and it's a series called Lost in Scotland. They're going to be in a camper van. We're going to design this tartan called Allan, which is Alan and Miriam blended
hmm
together. We're going to
hmm
surprise Miriam. She's going to go nothing about it. So I was like, okay. But Alan is just one of the most incredible, incredible human beings.
Isn't
He
he just?
he is, without doubt, his talent. But gosh, he is just what you see is what you get,
Yeah,
100% with him, and that is
yeah,
just so refreshing, and it's such a
yes,
great beacon to you have be yourself, because I can imagine
yes,
it's pressure to be what people want you to be.
yeah.
But yeah, it was such a giggle. I'm surprised they actually got anything that they could, by the time they edit the naughtiness, that they had anything left to actually to do the program for. But yeah, no, the tartan was all over it. And yeah, no, Alan is wonderful. I mean, he's just doing so many amazing things in Scotland, and I don't know where he gets the energy from, to be honest.
Yes, yeah, oh, exactly. I mean, I sometimes wonder myself. He just is non-stop.
Oh, and
One
mockery
minute
and everything.
1 minute he's marching down in front of us, then he's on top of a bus waving at everybody. Then he's at the Carnegie Hall doing running a concert. He was just an amazing character.
Yeah,
There is one slightly sad story, of course, about New York, and I read it on the website in 1986. Detective Steve McDonald of the New York Police Department was shot 3 times in his line of duty.
yeah.
Um, and sadly, he did live, thankfully, but he was a quadriplegic after that. And then you got to know the family, and you, in the end, did a tartan for them. Would you mind just talking a little bit about that story, because it's so wonderful, the outcome.
Yeah, there was a family friend who lived in Edinburgh. But this is very early days. But I was still in my shed at this point. Um, and yeah, her name was Claire, actually. And I met with her, and she told me all about, Stephen and his wife and their
Mhm.
children. And they wanted to do something to honor his memory, and again, go back to the whole concept of identity. When you lose someone you love, then, to be able to have that conversation about them, but sometimes the fabric of them, the clothes people wear, or, the fabric is just so massive in our lives.
Yeah.
From the sofas we sit on and the bed
Yes.
linen to the towels, it's everywhere. Yeah, so I got to learn a little bit more about his story, as you say, John, and all of the work he did, ambassador, purely for that whole concept of forgiveness.
Yeah.
What happened on that day. I think the young boy obviously went to jail, but I think he died within days of coming out of jail. And he tried to reach out to him. I mean, just this whole concept of forgiveness is such an important virtue that we need to it's the best way to move forward. And and then I met his wife and his son, because his son's also in the police force. And yes, I met them in New York, because I've been a couple of times to the parade also, before COVID. And they were like, okay, we're going to go down and meet Chief Commissioner O'Neill. I'm like, okay, then this is a big deal. I'm like, going down in a NYPD police car, like the movies, going down. And I was in Macy's with Stephen's wife, and it was just incredible. It was just so lovely to meet them. And we had the tartan and took some pictures, and I had a bite to eat with them. And it was just so lovely that, you get, when I've designed tartans that are personal, it's amazing how much you get to know about someone, and they're sharing, really intimate things, in the sense of emotions. And it's such a privilege to be part of that. But just a lovely, lovely family, and you can see their dad has been just such a huge inspiration to them. And a well-loved police officer, massively well known across the whole of the USA, because he was such a big campaigner, from the White House, you name it. He was incredible. I mean, it's just been crazy when I think about all the things the accountant has done.
What on earth are you doing riding in a New York police car? This accountant from from the Black Isle.
Yeah.
Can you just maybe explain a wee bit about the sort of the tartan that you make? Because of course tartan is, as we said, really a 19th century invention. How do you make it as honest as you can under the circumstances?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. It's something we talk about a lot. And I think it goes back to it's that whole concept of Indigenous communities, the tribal element. And you would have seen this all around the world, because everybody basically, protection, roof over your head, protection, clothing for your body. We wear clothes to protect our body, primarily. Food. And everyone behaved in the same way, whether we were Native American, whether we were Maori, whether, we're Highlanders, everyone behaved the same way. And so tartan really, I think, was the tribal clothing. If you think about the great, continent of Africa, and you think of there is Asia, everyone had this. They had a distinct style, cuisine, it's all language, everything. So tartan really was that Indigenous community aspect of what we wore. And I think, the whole identity piece really centered to that you often wore the textiles that were made close to home. And therefore, and largely families didn't, spread like we see today. So inherently there was obviously a bloodline element, but it was broader than that. It was community, and clan, has within its wide definition, the meaning of community. It's not exclusively bloodline. What I find fascinating, even the word clan today, how it's the English spelling. It should have two N's. It's the bizarrest thing. It's even Scottish Gaelic spelling. Wow. So we, as much as sometimes people look at the face of what we're doing and they'll go, wow, this is really modern. It's amazing what you're doing. And I probably go, put my hand up, we might be the most traditional tartan mill and clothing maker in the country in terms of the principles of that community regional designs, very unique to the mill, the people, the lady I was telling you walking down the street, she's wearing this is really like, this is the sliding doors to the 1500s. The clothing all made in a zero waste way. So we're not wasting fabric. It's designed to be reused. That's what the kilt was. It wasn't cut up. It wasn't overly tailored. It wasn't lined. It wasn't military. None of that. So we're probably sitting there and we're like, wow, this is like, rebellious, hell yeah, modern. As I say, we probably are the most traditional of all in the country, which is the bizarrest thing.
Yeah, but very nice at the same time.
Oh yes, yeah. Thank you.
No, it is, isn't it? It's traditional. I mean, I wear the kilt at least 7, 8 months of the year. So you'll see me wandering around the country, and I'm delighted with the respect it gets still. You know, when you approach a historical site or just walking in the town. I mean, clearly people want to take photographs, but because they like the traditional dress. But I'm also pleased the way that Scots react to it. I'll walk down the street and somebody will, a Scot, coming down, will say, "You're looking very smart today, sir," or "Love your dress," something to that effect. So it still has that respect in Scotland. So thank you for doing the traditional way, if I may say so.
Thank you.
Um,
We're doing it for the women now because we've had quite such a, because it's always been that icon, as you say, has been very
yeah.
much a male dominated piece. And I kind of sit
Uh-huh.
as the female Highlander going, I'm sure women wore this
Yes,
at
yes.
some point. We've just
Yeah.
not written about it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. So we're kind of bringing in a little bit of that equality to the Scottish tartan history that maybe it's just, didn't get as much,
Oh,
scribe.
absolutely. No, absolutely. It's the men with the swords were the ones that made history, apparently. But
Oh
no,
yeah, yeah.
behind every great man, as they say, is a great woman. In fact, talking about it, I mean, Claire in Outlander, the wonderful. I've got lots of American clients who follow Outlander,
Oh yeah.
and Claire, of course, wore lovely tartan dresses, so that was quite sweet. But if I think of Claire, I also think of Sam Hewen.
Yeah.
Who you've made tartan for? First of all, to make sure that my American female listeners aren't too jealous, did you meet the man?
Gosh, yes, Sam.
Well
Yeah, a
done.
few times. Yeah, no, it was incredible. No, I have a lot to thank Sam for, way back in the beginning when we were crowdfunding to, bring this notion of, selling product in advance,
Uh,
to bring this idea of bringing weaving home to the Highland region. Don't know how, but I managed. He
yeah.
responded to a message, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, do I contact your agent?" He's like, "No," he says, "Just send it to me. I'll share it for you." And he's just such a sweet, sweet guy. I mean, so
Uh,
as we say, chuffed. So
yeah.
chuffed for him in terms of his distillery now, and and all of
Yeah.
the other things. Without doubt,
Yeah.
incredible actor. In terms of theatre work, but
Yes.
as an individual, the sweetest, lovely guy. And when we were working with him and we were doing the Sassenach Tartan,
Uh,
yeah, just always mindful to respect the light that he shone on us for that while,
yes.
that really got us going. So there's always a debt is owed to Mr. Hewen, and I think he knows
Lovely.
that. So, but we hope that at the same time he can be proud of and take credit that we've, as my daughter, 18-year-old daughter Charlie, not the Bonnie Prince, she would have given him a run for his money, but my Charlie, it's like, Mom, you stay in your own lane. So we've kind of, yeah, we've been able
Yeah.
to, thanks to, without doubt, Sam at the beginning, shining that
Yeah.
light. We've earned our little bit of stage presence, and we're doing our own thing. We're respecting the space of others, and
Mhm.
we're open and transparent about what we learn and things like that. So yeah, so I
Okay.
met him quite a few times, did some filming with him.
Wonderful.
I was on Men
Wonderful.
and Kills. So if there's ladies listening who've followed Sam's journey, he did a TV show with Graham McTavish. So I've met Graham a few times. Gary
Mm.
Lewis, he was here. He was fun. He was hilarious. Gary Lewis. He was actually in this room. I'm in the sewing room tonight. He was in here. We're talking about Guernsey sweaters in Shetland, and he ordered one off this lady in the co-op who was there buying milk. It was just all so random, but this was Gary Lewis. But yeah, Men in Kilts. So they did an episode where they filmed at the mill, and Sam and Graham and I'm there, and we're at the looms and everything like that. And yeah, no, I got to meet Sam a few times, and yeah, I can still keep in touch with
Yeah.
Sam
That's
quietly.
lovely. So for the ladies listening, Sam Hewney is a bit of a hunk, is he?
Oh, he's just, he's such a lovely, lovely guy. He does so much for so many other people.
Yeah.
His charity work, and yeah, I just, yeah, I mean, I know he's this big celebrity, but I just see him as this really kind guy who
Hmm.
obviously worked really hard to get
Yeah.
his opportunity, and and that's hard industry, not back
Yes.
like that,
Yes.
but he got it, and but he's doing so much more with it. So
Mhm.
I just see that kind of
Yeah.
Sam.
Well, he comes across as a really nice guy, I must admit.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
I have to say I've not met him, unfortunately. Although I've met Diana Gabaldon, who wrote the book.
Yes, she's been at the mill. Yeah, she
Is
came out with her
she?
husband. Yeah, she came for an afternoon tea.
Yes. Yes. Lovely.
Also in this room.
Wow. I met her at Stirling Castle with Neil Oliver, who was doing
Oh yes,
a historical talk, but she was there doing a talk, and a very bright lady, a lovely lady to
she's
meet.
lovely. Yeah,
Um,
she was
I
crying
think just
here.
just just before we wrap up, there you do factory visits now, I believe. Is that right?
We do mill tours 1 day a month. That's all we do them because we're a very small mill and we're very honest, authentic, the cold face of
Yes.
how it really is. And because it's quite a noisy environment, you're talking about the amazing sound that comes from the looms because they
Uh,
sing. Every song, every tartan has its own song. So when you're weaving with a shuttle loom, which we do,
yeah.
create the arrangement. So you've got to create the order of the shuttle arrangement to get the repeat of the pattern. We now know our tartans by song. So you can
Right.
tell by turning your back, you know that the red is going, you know that the pink is going. We know in a pattern. So they
Yeah.
all have these amazing songs. But to do a tour, and we do it in our style, very personal. We have to stop a lot of what we're doing for safety and for sound. So we
Of course.
can't do, we would probably, people would come every day, but then we would weave nothing. And that
Yeah.
wouldn't really quite work out. So
Yeah.
yeah, 1 day a month in the summertime we have, but we have big plans for lots of things in the future, which involve Fort George and all sorts of stuff, which is really,
Really? Well, I look forward to that. I mean, I've seen on your website about the visit to the shop that you can have and the
yeah.
different talks that you do. And I was privileged to hear Susan, your main
Oh, yes.
assistant, do a
Yeah.
talk when I was up in Inverness, and by heavens, does she know her stuff as well? Just for the listeners, because although this might go on YouTube, and the listeners can't see you, do you mind if I describe you?
Oh, good luck.
This is it's now 7 o'clock in the evening, where most of you are either having supper or you're tucked down watching the television. And here is Clare Campbell of Brickley Thistle wearing a blue jumper, which is covered in thread. She's got a yellow woolen tammy on that clearly has seen better days, and 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 yet the enthusiasm just
Nails.
looking at the nails now. I won't tell them what the nails are like, but they can imagine. But no, the enthusiasm for Prickly Thistle and Rebel Row just absolutely shines through. And
Oh,
I'm delighted to have been able to chat to you this evening and just shoot the breeze, as we'd say. I think finally, how would you like people to look for you, discover, Prickly Thistle, Rebel Row?
yeah, I mean, if you just put Prickly Thistle Scotland in Google, you'll find us. And then, our website is our main kind of
Yeah.
signpost to say we're not on social media. So yes, our website will then tell you all about what we do at the mill, we do lots of events. As you say, we have these talks. We've got weaving workshops that we're doing this year, design your own tartan workshops. But yes, our store is very much a social
Mm.
community thing. And yes, all information about the store. We have a few items online, but because we do such amazing small batches of things, they sell so quickly in our shop. We don't even have time to put things on the internet anymore. People are like, "Wow, I can't see your things." Like, we're literally selling them so quickly. And
Yeah.
because everything, when we make a batch of anything, they're actually all unique because the way we do things in a zero waste
Yeah.
way. But yeah, our website is
Right.
the easy way to go. They can sign up to our emails. We do them once every 6 weeks, but we like to share our rebellious activities, which there is several projects
Mm.
on the go that people seem to love.
Yeah.
They find it really refreshing that this little business is trying to do so much
Yes.
around social, environmental, and of course tartan. But so people love our email because it's like the rebel rag. It's like a paper. It's like a newspaper.
No, absolutely. And you've certainly got one very, very keen advocate of your stuff in this house as well. Well, obviously two
Oh,
now that I've spoken to you.
yes, John.
Absolutely.
No.
Um, Claire, thank you so much. It's been really super. I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you and just finding out a bit more about the business, from the person that actually started the whole thing off. So thank you so much for coming on the Unique Scotland podcast. And may I wish you all continued success. And I'm actually bringing some clients up to Inverness this coming year, and we'll be popping into the shop at least, if not
Oh,
listening to one of your talks.
oh,
So,
thank you so much. I've loved tonight. I just love, I forget sometimes, I haven't done something like this for, gosh, a few months now. I forget how lovely it is and your questions and you're just amazing. Just, yeah. And your story, it should be a podcast just on you, John.
yes, there might be in the future. People
I
keep saying,
think
"Tell me about
it's,
your naval career." No, I can't.
yes, you're a
Um,
fascinating
yeah,
story. This has been,
yeah. My
I'll,
my
I'll
my My Fighting Pirates one is the one that goes down best with the grandchildren, but that's as far.
Well, I can ask the questions next time, and then you can do the Uniquely Scotland Meet John. But no, I
Absolutely.
thank you so much for inviting me, for letting me be part of this incredible chapters around Tartan that you're doing, and
Yeah.
thank you for thinking of what we're doing and let us share a little bit about Prickly Thistle with all of these amazing listeners in every country of the
Every country in the
planet.
world. Yeah, there's one person
Amazing.
listening to you. There'll be one person in Sierra Leone who's actually listening to you. So,
Hello,
what
Sierra
you
Leone.
hello, Sierra Leone. Yes, I think the Congo. I think I've got one there. Anyway, there's a number of places where we just don't know. Hopefully, they'll grow now that you've actually come on the program.
Incredible. But we'll be sharing
Anyway,
this with our well, the people that follow us as well on our email. But no,
that's
thank you,
lovely.
John.
Not
I've
at all. Pleasure.
thoroughly enjoyed tonight. Yeah, and I'm not seeing your kilt, but I can see, you've got your smart clothes on. So people, look, there we go. Because if the video does make it, we need to see, look at this.
Ta-da.
There we go.
The,
Most
ma-
people
the,
are
ma-
saying she's not made any effort. But I'm going to go back and sew more clothes for customers.
Well, the reason I'm in the full kilt because the last time I actually was videoing somebody like this, they said, you're doing a thing. During lockdown, people just put a jacket and tie on, and they'd be
Yes,
sitting with the pajama bottoms. So I've made a point of sitting in my kilt, making sure at least I've got the
love
kilt
it.
on.
Love
But
it.
anyway, Claire, I won't take any more of your time. Listen, you're
Oh,
a
no.
busy lady. I can see you're in the workshop, about to go back to work to do what you do best. And can I just say thank you for coming on the program and brilliant product, and look forward to seeing you this summer with some of my clients.
Likewise, John. Thank you so much.
All the best. Bye bye for now.
Thank you.
Well, that was Clare Campbell, the founder of the Prickly Thistle brand, with her flagship outlet in Inverness called Rebel Row. And it was a delight to have Clare join us on our Unique Scotland podcast today. I told you it'd be fun, and Clare did not disappoint. I'm going to be in Inverness in May and June this year, so I look forward to meeting her again and visiting her lovely shop. It was also good to hear her endorse what I said in my podcast on Tartan, that it's not the story of a single pattern, nor a single people. It's the story of how humans use cloth to express who they are. It speaks to the human desire to weave meaning into the fabric of life. For Clare, she seems to have found that meaning in her life, and it's been a real privilege to share that with her. So thank you, Clare. In my next podcast, I will be touching on weaving again, because I'm taking you with me on my journey to the Outer Hebrides, which includes the island of Harris, and of course everyone's heard of the Harris Tweed. Well, during my chat with Clare, I mentioned that I'd met up with a man called Donald John Mackay. He's the Harris weaver, famous for the tartan cloth that he supplied to the Nike brand. We had a chat in his weaving shed, and I'll share that with you on that particular podcast. It was quite a journey with cancelled ferries and some trouble with our vehicle as we sped across the islands of Barra and Eriska, where Bonnie Prince Charlie had landed at the commencement of his failed Jacobite uprising in 1745. I'll be taking you to the Callanish Standing Stones in Lewis, perhaps where Diana Gabaldon got her inspiration for Outlander, and also Iron Age dwellings called brochs, all that and so much more. Well, as always, I've thoroughly enjoyed bringing a part of Scottish history to you, and I do welcome feedback, so if you wish to comment on any of the areas we've covered today, or if you wish me to cover any aspect of Scottish life, then please do get in touch through the contact page of my website, or send an email to john@exclusivescottishvisits.co.uk. And if any of you listeners have followed my podcast tour routes, then do send some photographs of you on part of the trip with your name, and I'll give you a mention on my social media channel. You might even appear on one of my podcasts. And as the president of Clan Mackay Society of Scotland, I'd love particularly photographs of you next to the wonderful Mackay Country granite obelisks that you'll meet on your journey as you head into Sutherland in the far north of Scotland. And if you want to join the Mackay Clan Society, please go to clanmackaysociety.co.uk, where you'll be able to fill in a form and you will be most welcome. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you all listening today, and I would now like to sign off in traditional Scottish fashion by raising my glass with a wee dram to you, wherever you are in the world. Slàinte mhath.
You've been been listening to the Unique Scotland podcast with exclusivescottishvisits.co.uk. To receive all our episodes automatically, please subscribe now.